Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. It is exactly 9 minutes after 9 o'clock South African time. And I mention it being South African time because we're crossing over down under to Australia, Perth to be exact. And we're going to be talking with a Perth-based social commentator, Haroon Cajee, about a very interesting piece that he's written. And I can't wait to get talking. Assalamu alaikum to you, Haroon. Welcome to the program. Lovely to be talking with you once again.
Wa alaikum salam, Julie, and it's always a pleasure talking to you. And thank you for taking the time to listen to my opinions and views. I appreciate that.
I must say it was timed very appropriately, Haroon, because I know that you're, are a prolific reader. You follow international news, and you have strong opinions about what's happening around the world. And you're an ex-South African. You've lived in different countries. You finally settled down in Perth, Australia, but you do have your eyes and ears on the ground regarding the situation in South Africa, and undoubtedly you have heard and read about the migration problem or the xenophobic attacks against migrants in South Africa. And I find it very interesting because my first interview was with a political analyst about that situation in South Africa, as Ramaphosa made a statement last night outside of the union buildings saying that they are going to be, addressing the illegal migration population in South Africa in a very, very aggressive way. We know that that is not our problem in South Africa. It's not the migration issue. It is the third force at play here. So I'm just giving you that scenario, my first interview, and it's interesting that I have you on the line to talk about the South African Muslim population in South Africa, how we got here, where we are right now, and what does our future look like going forward if there aren't certain measures that we put in place. So welcome once again, and your opinion piece. It's really about our situation. I'll hand over to you. Where do we belong as South African Muslims? And is it a situation of wherever you go to, wherever in the world, people or those countries will find a reason to reject you? Over to you, Haroon.
One of the things growing up, we've always been conflicted. The external environment was Western, our schooling was Western, but our internal environment was cultural and Islamic values imbued in culture, right? So we've always been growing up with this conflict, unlike majority Muslim countries, right? So we've always learned to deal with this conflict. But what I found is that, previously we were not white enough under apartheid. And I believe that post-apartheid, we're not black enough. Doesn't matter where I go, someone finds a reason to pigeonhole me in a negative way. So if I go to Australia, I'm a non-white Muslim. If I go to India, well, it's now become a Hindu nationalist state, and there'd be challenges for me. Even in parts of Malaysia, which I love dearly, and we lived there for 10 years and I had a great time, I was still being pigeonholed as an Indian Muslim. So there's always this challenge, right? We don't know where we belong. We have a sense of insecurity. Doesn't matter where we are. We don't really feel at home wherever we are. Now, this issue is bigger than race, right? It's how we respond. And we've been constantly told, look, if you look at the South African rhetoric and the dialogue, right, we are being told we don't belong, right? This has gone on for the last 10, 15 years. From, a lot of ANC people have made these comments. And this is a challenge, right? But we cannot allow ourselves to be identified by the prejudice of others, right? Our dignity comes in from our values, our character, and our contribution to society. So one of the biggest challenges that we face as a community is that the problem is under apartheid, we regressed into these cocoons, very comfortable spaces. We created a niche. We were largely successful. Some stepped out and participated in the wider struggle, but most of us found a comfort, including me, found a comfortable space, created careers, got ourselves educated, created businesses, and became successful, a lot of us, right? And we focus on our homes, our religious institutions, while becoming less engaged in the wider society around us. Now, fair or unfair, we've participated in the struggle. We had a strong representation in the freedom struggle. But today, the perception is that we are benefiting from this society, but we're not contributing enough to the broader national conversation. Now, over that, you've got this layer of third force, right? So we know the Zionist movements with the Christian evangelicals, right? Creating this anti-Islamic rhetoric, trying to reframe the narrative with the government and the general public in this conflict in the Middle East, right? Then we've also got just pure Islamophobia, just people not liking us because of our faith, whether it's Christian driven or if it's Hindu. I've seen some comments online, some really nasty comments from South African Indians who lived along with us, went to school with us, most likely all their lives, now suddenly turning against us because they picked up this Hindu nationalist sort of rhetoric, right? So, exclusion we know about, right? We know what it feels like. It makes us more aware of dangers, division, resentment, and politics, right? But the problem today is South Africa is becoming increasingly fragmented. We've got economic hardship, unemployment, failed state, infrastructure, degradation. When societies come under pressure, right? When there's a few hungry bellies, you'll find that race relations is the first to suffer. And we start looking for people to blame, right? And we're a convenient target because we are vulnerable, right? We're not seen as we're not seen as strong, physically strong or militarily strong, and economically we're not projecting power except for our own benefit. So we become vulnerable, right? Now they're targeting foreigners now, okay? And this targeting is everywhere in the world, right? Australia's got this migrant issue. The UK has got the Reform Party. Here we've got the One Nation Party making great strides, talking about foreigners, taking our jobs, the same old rhetoric. But here it's related to a first world problem, the the high cost of housing, right? It's not poverty driven or joblessness or
Okay. Haroon, can I interrupt you there, please? I'd like to go for an ad break. When we come back, we can continue the discussion. I'm also very interested in hearing about Australia and the Indigenous people in Australia. What's their position compared to the migrants in Australia as well? But all of that and much, much more, inshallah, right after the ad break.
Okay.
There are over 200 million orphans globally. We can't help all of them, but what if we each helped just one? The Al Imdad Foundation now gives you an opportunity to help just one orphan from Syria or Palestine. For just 500 Rand per month, you can help safeguard the dignity of an orphan by assisting them with basic needs such as food, clothing, shelter, medical care, and attention. Our orphan sponsorship program allows you to track the progress of your orphan through regular feedback. Make a difference in the life of an orphan today. Visit alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
The kitchen, the heart of the home, where memories are made and celebrated. Our go-to place for those freshly stacked pancakes early in the morning or for that late-night snack munchies. We are in there together, cooking, eating, and celebrating life together. Let's keep the kitchen a place that is shared by everyone, where we build stronger bonds and grow together. Sunfoil, Now We Cooking. Visit nowwecooking.co.za for recipes that everyone can help make.
World-class financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic, Sharia, and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings from short-term to life and investments. A full-service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
Give the gift of clean water with Africa Muslims Agency. With every water well or borehole you donate, your drop becomes a river, reconnecting communities to nourishment, education, dignity and empowerment. Sponsor a water well for 17,000 Rand in Africa or a borehole for 65,000 Rand in Afghanistan or Africa. Quench the thirst. Reconnect the soul with Africa Muslims Agency.
I want to mention a specific thing, and this struck me as quite remarkable. On my first trip that I took to Palestine, it was 2012. And I learned there that in 1950, the Israeli authorities introduced what they called the absentee property law. And literally, this was the law that was designed to take over property and land from Palestinians who had fled the Nakba in 48. Internally displaced Palestinians inside of the state of Israel. This law is still in place. And the quite remarkable thing about this law is that for the purposes of property, the Palestinian refugees and internally displaced persons were considered absent for the purposes of property, so that the state could take over their homes and their land.
With the Isaac Senior Gender Justice and International Law Fellow.
Salam Media, a global voice for humanity. Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media, your humanitarian broadcaster.
Welcome back. I'm talking with Haroon Cajee. He's based in Perth, Australia. He is an ex-South African, but he's also a social commentator. I have him on air today to talk about an opinion piece he's written, which I found very interesting, and I'd love to share his thoughts with everyone right here on air today. I have also forwarded that opinion piece pretty widely. Haroon talks about identity, exclusion, and fear, and he says that he's sounding the alarm for South African Muslims. So welcome back, Haroon, and we'll make a comparison with our situation in South Africa to the situation of Muslims in Australia, and then also look at the situation and position of the indigenous people of Australia.
Okay, so, the difference between us Muslims here and the Muslims in South Africa is that we're living in a far more stable environment. I have the protection of the state. There might be a lot of implicit Islamophobia and racism against me. There's some risk of violence, but at least I know that we're living in comfortable spaces and the state will protect us, right? The difference in South Africa is that you don't have those level of protections if the state starts failing and you got coalition politics and weak government and poor institutions that have been degraded in the last 20, 30 years. Now, in Australia, the indigenous population is a huge challenge for this government. Despite their best efforts in the last 20 years to improve their socio-economic conditions, it has largely failed. So they live on the margins of society. They live in remote, towns. There's a fair few that are successful. A lot of sports, stars that become successful playing rugby and footy, the Australian football rules. But generally, theirs is completely different to the experience of my experience, or the experience of other migrants, or the experience of sort of white Australians. So the indigenous population is a huge challenge. They've got massive socioeconomic problems. They've got massive problems with alcohol, drug taking, breakdown of family units, violence in their societies. And I'm not particularly sure what that solution is. The government's at a loss at what to do about it. They've tried all kinds of strategies. They fund a lot of money. They get special places in university. They get more money for healthcare. Companies, there's similar programs to BEE here for indigenous. A lot of the major companies will ask you, what is your indigenous engagement policies? But it's not mandated, and it's more lip service at an economic level. So theirs is a completely different experience to myself as a migrant and Muslim migrants here. In general, we got two parts. We got the skilled migrants like myself that turned up here and that are contributing and have become, positive to society and work and do well. But then you also got a large amount of migrants that came from Lebanon and Afghanistan that are poor and came from war zones, and they find it a bit more challenging. They find more challenging in integration. Their language skills are poorer. Their education level standards are a little poorer. So even amongst us, you've got these two kind of groups of people. The first generation migrants generally struggle when they're coming out of war zones and failed states and came here as refugees. But the other skilled migrants generally tend to do well and contribute. But the difference between you and us is if the system falls down in South Africa and suddenly, the policing and, we know what happened in the KwaZulu riots, right? What if that becomes pervasive? Then you don't have the protections we would have here. And that is a huge challenge.
What is your sense of the South African Muslim population? When I think about just how much of effort they put into welfare services, and the type of work they do in impoverished areas, and we look at all these very well structured and well set up organizations. I'll just take Gift of the Givers as an example. Not only in South Africa, but whenever there's a disaster anywhere else in the world, they are first on the scene. But we have many such organizations in South Africa doing sterling work amongst the poor. Do you not think that something like that or those platforms can assist in changing our profile or changing the way the South African indigenous people see and view us, and then give us some form of protection and realize we are here to assist in every way possible?
Look, it's an absolute important strategy and a plank, right? We have to do that. And we're doing that quite well recently, right? If you remember the KwaZulu riots, the mosques became a focus point of distribution of aid, milk to babies, and it created such a positive buzz for us as Muslims, right? So that's absolutely important. I know Ashraful Aid also do a lot of work, Gift of the Givers. There's so many organizations doing some wonderful work, right? But the problem is we're still building too many mosques and Darul Ulooms and all these kind of places. We're not getting involved in the media. We're not getting involved in political advocacy. We're not participating. I know Imran Subrati and a few others, they're doing some great work. The other day, remember there was somebody made some terrible comments, Islamophobic comments, and immediately he got it removed from the platforms that it was being distributed, right? So this is the important thing. So participation is lacking. Our involvement is lacking. We're doing some great work in the charitable space, but we also need to start advocating, participate in the process. Every time there's an election, the only dialogue is kufr politics, and we shouldn't get involved in it. And then this way we got no agency and we got no voice at the table. And when somebody else is making decisions about our community and we don't have a voice at the table or we don't have a seat at the table, then of course the outcomes might not be what we prefer, the best for our community and society. There's far too many people still living in their cocoons. They're quite happily living in their towns. They go to Rosebank or wherever. They have their meals and they just live in this cocoon and fly off to Turkey and fly off for Umrah 5 times and 10 times and take the money off to Dubai. And that's what they're doing. A lot of people are doing. So this perception that we are not part of the society, but just taking from it, is becoming a reality. And now what will happen is, remember, this problem started with xenophobia, started with the foreigners in the township with their businesses, right? Then it'll be the Pakistanis. Then suddenly it'll blur the lines between the Pakistani and the Indian Muslim and the Muslims that were here since 150 years ago. So this is the challenge we face. If we do not get involved, if we do not participate, we cannot rely on the ulama class only to provide leadership, because frankly, let's be frank, they lack the skills. I know Maulana Rawat does some great work and the UXA, whatever, trying to do some political advocacy and trying to address it. But a lot more of that has to be done. People need to understand that we need to provide money for this as well, and not just water wells or, everything is important, but people look at charity in the sense that if I feed a poor person or a thirsty person gets water, I get, they're looking at cost, value, benefit, and maximum reward. But there's a lot of other things that need to be done as well.
Being so far removed from South Africa, you do follow situations and just our position here in South Africa very, very keenly, and rightly so. You are an ex-South African. You're an ex-Ermelo boy, am I right?
Standerton.
Standerton. Oh, there you go.
Ermelo was our sporting rival, so please.
Okay, but still the Corwoods, okay? Having said that, what is your advice to us here in South Africa as Muslims? We've looked at the situation of where we are very happy to dig into our pockets very deeply and make a meaningful contribution. And apart from getting involved in politics and other areas, and of course, media advocacy is so important. We need to make our voices heard very loudly in all the different spaces. And I might get shot down for this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Let's look at there's an organization run by a Jewish family, and I think it's called Africa Tikkun. They are doing the most amazing work they have been doing for the past so many years. They are educating people. They're taking disadvantaged children, putting them through education and making leaders of these people. And these people obviously give voice to them as a Jewish community. Why are we still sitting back and not waking up to these sort of opportunities either? I mean, our own Muslim children that need bursaries, have to go through such a rigorous process before they can even be given a pittance to try and get some education.
Because we do not value the rational sciences and contribution to community and society. We only value religious education and rituals. That's the problem. Fundamentally, if you look at WIFAQ as well, it promotes the decrying of the rational sciences and learning and understanding technology. Participation is kufr. Universities are decried. And that is a problem. That is a challenge. We're still too comfortable in that cocoon. We're still hiding in that cocoon. We're not comfortable anymore. The comfort zone's gone. Outside, there's chaos. But in our cocoon, we find that comfortable. It's what we know. It's what we know best. So what we do, we regress into the cocoon. We don't want to invest in education. We don't. And even if it is education, generally people want to become lawyers where they can maximize the amount of earnings, or they want to become a doctor or an engineer, right? That's traditionally seen as the prime vocations. But people don't want to get involved in media. I know we've got some people in media now. But it's not enough. Then there's the advocacy groups like Samnet, Faisal Suleiman and them, trying to do some work but struggling to get funding. A.B. Dowji, I know he delves into. He's a lone ranger that sits and peppers people on their Facebook pages and responds, trying to advocate and change the narrative. But that's really not a lot. We need to get more involved.
As you speak, I realize just how hopeless our situation seems. And we really need to wake up, and we need to wake up right now. But thank you for your insights. It's not as if we're not aware that this is what is going down and what our fate is going to be like if we don't wake up, and we don't wake up real soon. In closing, what would you like to share with us?
Home is where the heart is. And I feel for South Africa every day. When I read, when I listen, I have family, I have a sister, and I'm concerned. But there's a lot we can do, and a lot we should be doing. And people need to start thinking about this, particularly getting involved, participation, and advocacy. Because if we don't, and hope for the best, what was very sad to see this week? Today on one of the chats, I think we're on the same group chat, someone posted a lecture by an alim, I think it was in Nigel, that spoke about the same things that I spoke about except his solution was we need to pray more. And prayer,
Yeah, has got a place, alhamdulillah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala
absolutely
does hear our
imperative.
prayers, but we have to be more proactive.
We've
I
got
just
to
want
tie
to
the
wrap
camel.
by Yep. I just want to say one thing in closing, and that is we talk about becoming more involved politically. One of the pushbacks that we get from the community is, let's assume I get involved and I decide to become a member of the ANC. You get hammered from all sides. You know, you get told that ANC is corrupt to the core. And then you have other people that join the DA and other parties. So whichever party you decide to join and do some work, some upliftment work for us, and, you know, showcase us as a Muslim, you get hammered from some quarter or the other. So you've got a very confused Muslim group who would like to become involved in politics, but they know they're going to be hammered whichever political party they decide to join. Your final thoughts on that comment?
I commented on one of our groups, and it was about the member of parliament who was a DA member of parliament. Perhaps the strategy is to get involved in the DA and then reframe the narrative, right? Get involved in the ANC and then talk to them about Islamic values and try and propagate those values and try and improve it from within. You can't sit on the outside. You're not going to change anything. You're never going to. If the DA suddenly had a very strong Muslim constituency, they're going to have to reframe their narrative. It will become reframed. It might be a challenge. It might be slow, but you've got to be on the inside to be able to make a difference. And we're not. And if we keep...
Haroon, that's where we have to leave it. I've passed my time for ads, but always a pleasure talking with you and wonderful reading your opinion pieces. Continue doing them. Thank you. Keep well. Salams to the family. Assalamu alaikum to you.
Wa alaikum salam to all the listeners.
Soweto, it's time to stand together for justice, peace, and solidarity. Join us for the annual Soweto Walk for Gaza, taking place on Saturday, the 20th of June at 7:30 a.m. The walk will begin at the historic Regina Mundi Church and proceed to the monumentous Dlamini Mosque, bringing together people of all faiths, backgrounds, and communities in a powerful show of unity and support. Bring your family, friends, and fellow residents as we walk together for a common cause. Let your voice be heard and your presence counted. That's the annual Soweto Walk for Gaza, Saturday, the 20th of June at 7:30 in the morning, starting at Regina Mundi Church and ending at Dlamini Mosque. Together we walk, together we stand, together we show solidarity.